very much. Distinguished colleagues, our session topic is confronting terrorism. I take the topic not necessarily literally, but in a more comprehensive, holistic sense, as addressing the very complex issue of terrorism. The word terrorism itself has unfortunately become a virtual household word. That is because acts of terrorism have touched many households in many countries, including our own little country. It has spread its tentacles to many domains, impacting public life in an unprecedented way. Hardly a day goes by without reportage of gruesome acts of terror somewhere. The word, I'm sure all of you know, generates over 350 million hits in half a second on Google. And global databases have recorded, documented, over 180,000 terrorist acts over the last few years. Terrorism has therefore become a fundamental challenge to peace, security, stability, and the public order, not only within our states, but also between states. Why is this? Because terrorism has spread, proliferated massively and relentlessly. Proliferation has been geographical as well as qualitative or vertical, if you like. Just before coming here, I saw a Hindustan Times report quoting an American think tank database that India, Turkey, Afghanistan, and Sri Lanka are among the new countries where the Islamic State terror group has found a foothold, as its influence has been drastically degraded in Syria and Iraq. United Nations Secretary General, or rather Under Secretary General, who is heading the counter-terrorism unit at the UN, just the day before told the UN Security Council that ISL is, and also associated terror groups are still looking for global relevance. I think number of speakers who spoke at the morning session pointed to this continued and relentless effort by various terror groups, especially the West Asian ones, for regrouping and continuing their activities. In fact, the same think tank has reported that the ISL group has carried out more terrorist activities outside West Asia than in that region last year. That is really not good news. It has spread from jungles to the metropolis, from deserts to greener pastures, land to sea to air, and now to cyberspace. And hopefully it will not go to outer space. One can at least hope. This vertical proliferation has been quite disturbing also. The philosophical platform of this problem oscillate back and forth ethnically, religion-wise, or even concerning communities and statehood, etc. Sophistication has grown as well, from ordinary conventional attacks to more complex and daring suicide and piracy operations, to cyber attacks, chemical attacks, and, as we saw in recent reports, drone attacks. And drones, hopefully not autonomous ones, with radiological material can be really a deadly weapon of mass destruction. Mercifully, there has not been any non-terrorist attempt at a nuclear weapon detonation, at least so far. However, knowledge and technology is out there and quite accessible too. Certainly, experts, including UN Secretary General, agree that a radiological attack using unsafeguarded radioactive material cannot be ruled out. Last month, Reuters reported a vehicle with a stock of iridium was stolen in Chile. Just a couple of weeks ago, UN Security Council discussed another dimension of this, the danger of transnational organized crime joining hands with terrorist operators. Security Council Resolution 2482, adopted just a month ago, said terrorists do benefit from organized crime for financing and logistics. Yet, this is an alarming inventory of terrorist trouble, really, and it shows no sign of abating either. Rather, the frequency, variety, and intensity of terrorism seem to maintain a worrisome momentum. Yet there is no internationally agreed definition of terrorism, and a comprehensive international treaty to combat this menace is stalemated in a kind of a diplomatic muddle at the United Nations about definition. The question is, are the current level of international cooperation and legal framework sufficient to address this menace now? A good question, hopefully, will be discussed by the panel and at the discussion period. There are countries like Sri Lanka, of course, which have achieved tangible results in ending organized terrorism, but they still suffer from post-conflict peace building and sustainability issues. They find themselves in situations where the soldiers' success in ending the armed conflict had not been matched by political and diplomatic success of durable post-conflict peace building. As a result, as was pointed out again in the morning, that there is no obvious end to some conflicts. As a result, conflict by other means tend to continue, despite a lot of talk about non-recurrence strategies, reconciliation, accountability, etc. A stark reminder about the unsustainability was the terrible Easter Sunday terrorist bombing in our own country. It also reminded us that terrorism can indeed be a monster, a multi-headed or hydra-headed monster rising in new forms at new locations. If we do not adopt comprehensive and timely strategies, political, military, root causes, and of course, politics with consensual approaches. There are, of course, many more aspects to this difficult but indispensable task. In fact, there is an abundance of analysis, but a paucity of solutions. To talk about all this and more, we have an eminent panel. At this point, may I please invite the panelists to the podium, Dr. Chulani Attanayaka and Mr. Asad Ullah Khan and Professor Ahmad Salah Hashim. Would you please join me at the podium? we have the three eminent panelists, and two of them will speak to focus on Sri Lanka experience, and the third speaker will address the subject of new dimensions of global terrorism. So without taking up much of your time, may I first invite the first speaker, Dr. Chulani Attanayaka, to speak to the topic Sri Lanka decade after 2009. Dr. Chulani Attanayaka is a visiting research fellow at the Institute of South Asian Studies, National University, Singapore. Before that, she was the Director Research of the Institute of National Security Studies in Sri Lanka, and she was also a visiting lecturer at the Bandaranaike Center for International Studies on politics in South Asia and politics in the Indian Ocean. And she has worked as a research associate as well at the Lakshman Kadirigama Institute for International Relations, and served as an international expert at an international study group on Green Belt and Road, a project of UNEP and the Ministry of Environment Protection in China. She obtained her PhD from Central China National University. She has a Bachelor in Arts from University of Peradeniya and Masters from University of Colombo. May I please